prospect pairings, Keith. I always pull up Tankathon, look at the draft order, and I go to number 15 right now. They're 3, 4, and 1. That is the Dallas Cowboys, Keith. And Jerry did a lot of talking going into that game against the Packers, which was a very good game. They tied the game. Shout out to Jerry. I know that was a win for him. And he was like, yeah. Mike is so great, but our run defense. Sometimes he lost to some games because of our run defense. I'm like, that's a bold statement. I feel like Mozzie Smith not panning out for you as well. Why you lose some of the rushing ability, stopping the run. But even when they did have some moments, be able to stop the run and force teams in third downs, they can't get after the quarterback. So it's like, wow, you lose Michael Parsons. That's kind of what happens. Because I look at Ohio State, who's got it made up both for our top 10. I think he was my number 4 for me, number 6 for you. Arvell Reese, the do-it-all defender for the Ohio State Buckeyes. I want him with the Dallas Cowboys. And I just look at it from this aspect. If you did it once, do it again. 6'4", 245 pounds. When you drafted Michael Parsons, he was labeled and listed as a linebacker. And because of some, I think, was it injuries his rookie year, it forced him to play both linebacker and edge. Yeah, that's when we saw him blossom.
Yeah, they definitely, and I think that's the part that people forget. They stumbled into Michael Parsons being the
100%.
And those who watched the film, and because I had an interesting, thing with Michael Parsons, because I was at LSU during the time, right? So I remember him from high school, and I was like, the guy was kind of built like an edge rusher. So when he was coming out in the draft and people were still talking about linebacker, I'm like, the guy is kind of built like a defensive end. like he's built like Khalil Mack. Maybe we should try him at edge rusher. The Dallas Cowboys stumbled into that.
100%.
You are 100% correct for breaking that up with the injuries, right? I forgot what injuries it was. I can't remember. That was like DeMarcus Lawrence, maybe back then. I can't remember what edge rushers it was. That could go back as far as a Taco Charlton name pool,
right? No, because they were missing on edges
Randy
left
Gregory,
and right. At that time, they were missing left and right on that. And I think when I look at Reese, I like Reese as a linebacker. I think he's a very impactful linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
Functional, dropping off to zones and spots. He's aware and keeps his head on the swivel and different things like that. Protects the seam and everything. And of course, he's a really good run defender, triggering downhill. He attacks offensive linemen with power. And then you see him walk down on the edge, and you're like, okay, I see a lot of upside with this dude rushing the passer. That long arm, that speed to power. Then you got the speed around the edge and everything, using the club maneuvers and being physical. I think this is a guy that can do both. You know what I mean? Like the Baron Brownings, what was it? Drew Sanders coming out of Arkansas before he got hurt with the Denver Broncos was another one who could say, hey, first and second down, help us in the run game. And on third down, we'll walk you down to edge. And like I said, like we talked about earlier with Caleb Downs, if you have 3 safeties, you could take up Arvell Reese, put him on the edge, bring another safety in to replace him at backer in those big nickel and big dime situations. I think this is a dude that, for me, for the Cowboys, he also brings an attitude. Like every time I see that defense, and I'm just like, this defense is not tough. It's not a physical defense. Arvell Reese is injecting physicality the moment he steps on that field. So you need a guy that's going to change the culture on that defensive side of the ball, make guys take accountability. Like, hey, he plays like a madman, the same way Micah did. And you need to replace not just the talent, but the mentality on that defense. And I think Arvell Reese could do that.
No, DP, I agree with that so much. And I mean, Micah Parsons in departing basically said that, right? Like, I used to be the one trying to go full speed, and everybody else was like, hey, this is Dallas, relax, right? That wasn't his personality. So no, I like that a lot, DP. I'm gonna go with this. I'm gonna go inside of the top 10. Right at 10, I'm sorry. I'm gonna go the running back we just talked about, Jeremiyah Love to Cincinnati. And the reason I say, and obviously offensive tackle is going to be a huge thing for them. I think either way that they can find to get the ball, to protect Joe Burrow, and sometimes you can protect him with offensive linemen, and sometimes you can protect him with a running game. And I think you have to look at it from that perspective, right? And even you think about the early year, not early years, because early years Peyton Manning had Edgerrin James, right? But
Marshall
remember,
Faulk, Edgerrin James, like
and then the guy I was going to go with, remember Joseph Adai, and he was kind of one of those backs too that was versatile out of the backfield, can catch the football, pass pro, and he can tote the rock some too. I think giving him a bona fide, just top tier playmaker can help balance this Cincinnati Bengals offense out to where some of the times you can just take the football out of Joe Burrow's hands and let him run the rock, like almost, like in when you look at opportunities, right? And because we do it for running backs and we talk about workload, right? And workload and potentials for injury. Well, I think you can say the same thing for quarterbacks, right? Like the more times they drop back is the more times they have an opportunity to get hurt and get injured, right? So if you only give your quarterback 30 times the opportunity to get injured versus dropping back 55 times a game, then I mean, it helps, right? So I like the balance, and I like everything we talked about with the electricity of Jeremiyah Love. And the Cincinnati Bengals could use offensive tackle, but I like drafting a running back also.
And I love the points you bring up, Keith, because even when you talking about like from a winning standpoint, of course, wins and losses are not a QB stat. But I remember when Brady was in the league, he was the only quarterback with a winning record throwing when he had to throw 45 to 50 times a game. Peyton Manning, I think, had a losing record. Drew Brees had a losing record. It was only TB12, which lets you know this is not a formula for success if only one man was successful at it. So being able to, and I know that Joe Burrow is so comfortable and so good in the open concept, shotgun, going 11 personnel. But man, I think Joe Burrow getting into center, give me a traditional run game, hard play action. We talking about changing the levers and pulling the levers, getting single high safety. And you talking about single high because if you got a Jeremiyah Love, don't get me wrong, Chase Brown has played well. But I think Chase Brown is also coming up on a contract situation. Do you want to pay Chase Brown?
Yeah, right, 100%. And when you have the opportunity to potentially, and this goes to the quote, right? Don't let good prevent you from drafting great. Meaning that if you have opportunity to elevate at the position, and then like you said too, right? Rookie contract, how much money do you want to pay him? Right, like that whole
especially that cheap organization that the Bengals run. Like you just paid Burrow, you paid T. Higgins, you paid Jamar Chase. You played around with Trey Hendrickson, and you lofted him up in potential trade talks. No, you definitely want to save some cash, and I don't think you want to pay Chase Brown. So let's reset the clock financially, draft a Jeremiyah Love, and allow him to be the guy that especially in the postseason. Right. And in the late in December, you play in Cincinnati. It's a cold weather state. Like, man, late in the season, you playing Lamar Jackson, you facing the Browns, you facing the Steelers. Play keeper. That's the one thing I never understood about Zach Taylor and that coaching staff. I get it. Joe Burrow is Joe Burrow. He's Joe Cool, Joe Shiesty, all of that. Let's play keep away. Let's keep the ball away from Lamar. Let's keep it away from whoever's the quarterback on the opposite team. Granted, the Browns, you probably don't have to play keep away right now with, you know what I mean? The Dylan Gabriel's there or whoever. Like, they're rookies. They're trying to learn the NFL. So you might not have to play keep away. But if you face Lamar in December, yes, you face Aaron Rodgers right now, and he's played good football for the most part this year with the Steelers. You want to play keep away because your defense – it's not been the best. So I love that, Keith. I think that makes a ton of sense. Getting Jeremiyah Love, being able to be balanced, let Joe Burrow do his thing. I like that.